looking out on the high seas. A small corner of England, where morning rituals play out. Roker Beach in Sunderland, a city which found itself at the centre of the world.
So let's go straight to Sunderland.
The total number of votes cast in favour of leave was 82,000.
When it became the first big UK city to declare for leave.
It's been 3 years since the United Kingdom left the European Union as a result of a referendum on UK membership in the EU, which was held on June 23, 2016. Voters were asked to decide whether or not they wanted the United Kingdom to stay as a part of the EU. 51.89% of voters chose to leave the EU. At the time, the UK benefited from a transitional period, which allowed time for trade negotiations to take place between the UK and the EU. During this time, the UK continued to abide by all EU laws and regulations. But after the Parliament approved a withdrawal deal, the UK left the EU on January 31, 2020. This ended the 47 years of membership the UK had with the EU. In case you don't know, Brexit is the term used to describe the United Kingdom's exit from the European Union. Britain and exit are combined to form the word, and ever since Brexit, there has been a pandemic, which was quickly followed by an energy crisis. These events have made it challenging to determine the precise effects of Brexit. So the questions are, how has the UK been performing ever since its exit from the EU? How has the economy changed since its exit? Are the majority of Britons happy about this exit, or they're regretting their choice? In this video, you'll find out. First, how has the UK been performing ever since its exit from the EU? The decision of the United Kingdom to leave the European Union in 2016 was a significant event that had a significant impact on the country's economy. You know, for decades, the UK's economy was inextricably linked to the EU, but Brexit has forced the country to reassess its economic relationships with the rest of the world. Companies trading with the EU faced revised regulations, paperwork, and new checks on some goods as the UK got out of the single market and customs union in 2021. This sparked concerns about what would happen to the UK's £550 billion of trade between the UK and its closest trading partner. How was this going to turn out? This was the concern. Well, at first, the amount of goods exported by the UK to the EU fell. But once these kinks were resolved, it was said that trade volumes returned to pre-pandemic levels. However, it could be argued that trade would have grown even more if Brexit had not occurred. And when the British Chambers of Commerce surveyed 500 businesses, more than half said they were still adjusting to the new system. Meanwhile, some small exporters may have been discouraged entirely by the new regulations. In fact, a study of customs classifications reveals that the variety of goods exported has decreased. This is the same tale with the UK's imports. Although import volumes have recovered to pre-pandemic levels, however, experts attest to the fact that the price of food imported from the EU, such as tomatoes or potatoes, has risen, possibly by as much as 6% between 2020 and 2021. That was before the recent spike in inflation. Now let's talk about the flip side. Brexit has made domestic food producers more competitive. Exports to non-EU countries have increased significantly in the country. This has been fueled by the pound's depreciation, which has made UK goods more affordable to foreign buyers. Likewise, the UK has been able to negotiate new trade agreements with countries such as Japan, Canada, and Australia, which have helped to offset some of the losses caused by decreased trade with the EU. Meanwhile, it is the bigger picture that is more eye-catching, and here it is. At the height of the pandemic, most nations saw international trade collapse, but ever since then, trade in the rest of the G7 countries has recovered in the way that the UK has not. When comparing trade with the rest of the world and trade with the EU, the UK's trade with the rest of the world has decreased relative to the size of the UK economy. Trade has not recovered as quickly as it has in other major countries, and in fact, it has become less important in contributing to the UK's prosperity. Global Britain has become less open. It is lagging. The United Kingdom's exit from the European Union has had a negative impact on the economy in terms of foreign investment, The uncertainty surrounding Brexit has been one of the most significant challenges, leading to a decrease in foreign investment and a reluctance by businesses to commit to long-term plans. As a result, economic growth slowed down, with the UK's GDP growth rate dropping from 2.2% in 2015 to 1.4% in 2018. Now let's talk about the financial service sector of the UK. Well, this has been another source of concern. The financial services sector after Brexit. The financial services sector is an important component of the UK economy. One of the most significant effects of Brexit on the financial sector has been the loss of the UK's access to the EU single market. As a result, many financial institutions have relocated from London to other European financial centers. Now, Frankfurt, Paris, and Dublin have emerged as some of the most popular relocation destinations. The new location of financial institutions has resulted in job losses in the UK's financial sector. And according to an EY report, nearly 7,500 jobs had been relocated from London to the EU as the end of 2020, with more expected to follow suit. The tragedy of the loss of jobs has had a ripple effect on the economy, as many of these jobs were well-paying and supported other industries. Not stopping at that, Brexit has also had an impact on capital flows between the UK and the EU. The EU has implemented new regulations that make it more difficult for UK financial institutions to provide services to EU clients. This has resulted in a reduction in cross-border investments between the UK and the EU, which may have long-term consequences for the UK's economic growth. The UK's departure from the EU has also had an impact on financial sector regulation. The EU has long been a major player in financial sector regulation, and its exit has created a void that the UK will have to fill. Meanwhile, the UK government has enacted new regulations to ensure that the country's financial sector remains competitive, but there is still a long way to go to see how effective this will turn out to be. Brexit has also had an impact on the value of the pound. Since the referendum in 2016, sadly, the pound has been volatile, and its value has been largely influenced by the uncertainty surrounding Brexit. Now, let's see how the UK's labour market has been performing. Well, the UK's labour market has not been exempted from the negative effects of Brexit. Leaving the EU meant changes to labour-free movement rules and the implementation of a points-based immigration system, which has sparked criticism from unexpected quarters. Historically, the country has relied on EU workers to fill critical roles in industries like healthcare, construction, and hospitality. But ever since the referendum, the number of EU workers coming to the UK has decreased significantly, resulting in labor shortages in many industries. This has led to increases in wages. Although this has been embraced by workers, it is one of the contributing factors to inflation and higher living costs in the UK. With all this in mind, it can be said that since Brexit, the UK economy has experienced both positive and negative changes. While some opportunities for new trade agreements have opened up and the volume of exports has arisen, the overall impact of Brexit has been negative. From reduced foreign investment and slowed economic growth to job losses in financial services and labor shortages in critical industries, these have been of great concern. All of this adds up to an economy that has fared worse than its peers during the recent turmoil. Overall, the government's independent watchdog, the Office for Budget Responsibility, believes the UK will be 4% worse off than if they had voted no on Brexit. Meanwhile, there has been evidence of Brexit remorse among the British public, with some polls indicating that a growing majority of voters regret the UK's exit from the EU. According to a NatSan poll conducted in September 2016, a few months after the EU referendum, approximately 45% of respondents believed the economy would suffer as a result of Brexit, while 30% believed it would improve. However, according to Statista, the share of people who regret Brexit in these surveys has consistently been above 50% since late July 2022. Likewise, according to a survey by the UK in a Changing Europe poll, 44% of voters believe they can now assess the consequences of leaving the EU, while 39% disagree. With these, it appears that the majority of Britons regret their decision to leave the EU. What are your thoughts about how Brexit is going? Feel free to share in the comments. Please share, like, and subscribe to this channel for more related content.